Afternoon. Michael Wynn, Chief Digital Officer of Digital Ops, a division of RB Oppenheim Associates. And today is going to be a little bit different. We're actually going to kick off a four-part series that is going to outline how to build a strategic marketing plan for 2019. September, as we sort of wrap up the month, really is the month that most businesses will begin the process of creating their marketing plan for the following year. And so, we've talked about all kinds of little pieces of this kind of throughout the last video series and podcast that we've talked about. But today I really wanted to kind of break it down and really lay out some of the best practices when trying to put together your plan for business growth for 2019. Because it really doesn't matter if you have been in business for 30 years or 3 years. If you don't have a plan in place that you can fall back to when things get going crazy, or when you have a spike in business that can, or whatever the distraction or excitement might be, having a plan to fall back to is one of the most successful strategies for continued growth over time. So let's kick this thing off and let's talk about what that looks like. So number one is going through the exercise of a market awareness or a situation analysis. Number two that we'll talk about is a self-assessment or a SWOT analysis. Number three would be business objectives and target audiences. And number four would be tactics and measurements. So that's going to be the 4 parts of this video series that's going to go into next week. But wanted to start off, and we're going to really break down and dive into each one of these 4 areas each week, and we only have 8 or 9 minutes to do that. So that's why we got to break it up over a couple of videos. So let's take a dive into the market awareness or situation analysis part of the exercise of creating your strategic marketing plan for 2019. So I think first and foremost, you really need to, kind of sit down and review and think about how you got where you are now. So, if you can kind of look at and think about what have the trends been in your business for the last, say, 2 to 5 years, whether that is, cyclical business, economic conditions, employee turnover, changes in services or providers that you've kind of gone through. You really have to kind of think first and foremost, number one, about reviewing what have been those trends for the last 2 to 5 years and how has that gotten you to where you are today. And I think having that time to kind of look back and reflect definitely will help with your perspective when looking at some of the next things that we're going to work through in this sort of market awareness and situation analysis that we're going to go through. I think the second thing that is of most value is really making sure that you have very clearly defined your value proposition. In other words, why should someone choose your company over your competitor when it comes time for them to make a decision on buying the product or service that they're looking at? Again, so when you think about your value proposition, that's really, what is that differentiator between you and the rest of the marketplace, and really being able to succinctly define that and put your finger on that in the context of this sort of, situation analysis step. Number three kind of lends hand in hand. It's sometimes, the only way to really strengthen and shape that definition is by doing a competitive landscape analysis, going out and looking at what your competitor is doing. I mean, companies do secret shoppers all the time. They go out and look at websites. They should be looking at competitive social media channels, your competitor social media channels. All these different things are part of understanding what the competitive landscape looks like in your industry. And you need to look at it at a local, a regional, and a national basis to really get a good perspective of, kind of what's happening. And then I think number 4 would be to look at, where are some of the growth trends in your industry? Where are people really spending money? Where are you seeing more activity and interest? And then compare that to where are the areas that are declining. I think you need to have both sides of the plate, again, to have the best perspective and understanding of sort of that market awareness and situation analysis for your business and industry. Number 5 would be, what are your best connections or relationships for growth? I think this is an undervalued, component of a lot of businesses, that they don't value their connections or relationships, whether it's with another vendor, whether it's with, someone that you partner with frequently, or, someone or some, offering that really, you're able to kind of share, whether you're sharing customers or you're sort of that add-on service or that complementary service, that comes along with it. Think about what those best connections are, or the ones that you're missing, that could be. So thinking about that. And then lastly, and this one is sometimes hard, but I think it's really important, is how much does it cost to develop a new client? What is the cost? So you have advertising dollars, you have, personal time and investment. And then once you kind of figure that out, then think about, okay, once we have them, what's the projected value for the next 3 to 5 years of that new client? And I think if you're able to kind of put together, these sort of 6 things, which again, just to recap, is, kind of understanding the trends over the last 2 to 5 years and how you got here, defining your value proposition, making sure you understand the competitive landscape to really know the market and your competitors, and then what's growing, what's declining when it comes to your industry and services, and then what are your best connections or relationships for growth, and then really being able to figure out down to the penny, what does it cost to develop a new client, and then projecting that client value over the next 3 to 5 years. So putting those sort of 6 steps, those 6 exercises together, can really help you complete the first step in building a strategic marketing plan for 2019 by really understanding the market awareness and what your situation analysis is for building for the future for 2019. So those are those areas. So next week, the next episode, we're going to talk about number 2, which is conducting a self-assessment and a SWOT analysis. And we're going to break that down into detail. Guys, thank you so much. It's been a great week. I hope you have a great weekend. My name is Michael Wynn. I'm the Chief Digital Officer of Digital Ops, a division of RB Oppenheim Associates. We will see you next week.